this administration is profoundly evil in ways that are difficult for Americans to comprehend. Now, the problem is he's back.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that even if the American people get their act together on him, and they're starting to realize that. I mean, there was this great article, I hate to say great article. We have reached a stage of illegality, immorality, and depravity in a federal administration that no one could have ever thought.
Trump just lost it on Twitter after George Conway dropped some serious truth bombs about their marriage on national TV. The former president went off the rails, calling Conway a husband from hell, while Conway stayed cool as ice, tearing Trump's reputation apart piece by piece. Curious about what Conway said that sent Trump into a meltdown? It all comes down to Trump's so-called reverse Midas touch, where everything he lays his hands on turns to garbage instead of gold. And trust me, the receipts Conway pulled out during that interview have Trump shaking in his oversized suits. But before we dive in, I have a small favor to ask. If you enjoy this content, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing but helps us out a lot. So, did you click it? Awesome, thanks a bunch. Now let's get back to it. Ever wondered what happens when a top-tier lawyer decides to rip apart a former president on live TV? George Conway just gave us a masterclass, and let's just say Donnie Diapers did not take it well.
It's a cult. I mean, that's the only way you can describe it. And everyone has, it consists of basically two groups of people, mostly. I mean, that's basically what just happened here with Nikki Haley. And the person who has really lost it the most is Donald Trump. Some people who have basically completely lost it, the people we see in the House of Representatives. And then there are people who are basically afraid to call out.
Conway didn't come out swinging with wild accusations or angry rants like most Trump critics. Nope. He took the one approach that drives Trump absolutely insane. Calm, rational analysis. It was like watching a surgeon at work, slicing through the orange exterior to reveal all the rotting mess underneath. Sitting on live TV, Conway was cool as a cucumber, speaking in steady, measured tones that made his takedown even more brutal. No shouting, no arm waving. Just a methodical breakdown of Trump's narcissism and epic business failures, delivered with the precision of someone who knows exactly what he's talking about.
I think, generally speaking, not in every single case, less government is better than more, because you don't want too powerful a government because you may not like the next government. A disease of liberalism in the 60s and 70s when I came of political age, and now it's a horrible metastasis in the right that would say that, oh, well, let's see, in order to figure out whether this particular gun regulation is constitutional under the Second Amendment, we have to look very specifically at the statutes that were passed in Maryland in 1645.
What made Conway's approach so brutally effective was how he laid out Trump's reverse Midas touch, where everything he touches doesn't turn to gold, but to garbage. With the calmness of someone reading a grocery list, Conway rattled off Trump's biggest flops. Casinos that somehow went belly up, even though gambling is basically a license to print money, a so-called university as fake as Trump's natural hair color, and an airline that crashed harder than his diet plans. This is a man who managed to bankrupt casinos? Conway stated in his usual matter-of-fact tone. Who loses money running a casino? It's literally a business where customers hand you their cash.
He's the crazy one, and everybody is getting more crazy than he is. And as Nikki Haley pointed out when she was telling the truth for a couple of weeks in the spring. I mean, say it's 74, 75 degrees. He's saying it's freezing. He's the lies about the election. He's mentally unstable, and he's getting worse. And we can see it every day in the courthouse. We can see it when he's standing out there complaining about the temperature when thermometers in the courtroom.
Conway nailed it with one of the best descriptions of Trump ever. He's like a Matryoshka doll of lies. He lies about lying, then lies about that, and then lies again to cover it up. This isn't just a sick burn. It's a dead-on psychological analysis from someone who truly understands how Trump's mind operates. But the real dagger? Conway's breakdown of Trump's emotional makeup. No yelling, no insults. Just a cold, clinical observation. Trump seems to have zero empathy, no conscience, and treats people like objects instead of human beings. And coming from a well-respected conservative lawyer, these weren't just cheap partisan shots. These were sharp, undeniable truths that hit way too close to home for Trump's comfort.
I believe that even if things turn around publicly, I don't think they're going to turn around publicly fast enough to prevent some of the bad things that I think are going to happen. And the administration did in a whole bunch of agencies was fire en masse the probationary employees. And I don't remember exactly how long you're a probationary employee when you're hired, and it has to be individualized. They did not do that because they just fired everybody en masse. They pretend that, oh yes, we made a determination, but that's it's bullshit.
Conway's delivery was pure gold because he didn't just throw out claims. He brought receipts for every single one. Dates, numbers, real consequences. He laid them all out with the sharp precision of a top-tier lawyer building an airtight case. No need for shouting or childish name-calling, though let's be honest, that can be fun too. Just cold, hard facts. But here's what really got under Trump's paper-thin skin. Conway wasn't some random Democrat or liberal pundit. Nope. He was once in the running for high-level positions in Trump's own Justice Department. A lifelong Republican, a lawyer who helped argue a Supreme Court case against Bill Clinton, and of course he's married to Kellyanne Conway, one of Trump's closest advisors. This wasn't just another partisan attack. This was friendly fire from deep inside the conservative legal world. And that's the kind of betrayal Trump just can't handle.
Donald Trump, it's just ingrained in him. He wants retribution against his enemies. And by picking two people who are completely loyal to him, all this stuff, it's just these are the two perfect people to run an FBI that's controlled by a president who's a criminal. Spread his disinformation about January 6th and about Spygate, even back in 2016. That's what Bongino got on the radar screen for, and COVID, which Bongino got thrown off of YouTube for permanently.
As Conway ripped apart Trump's business record, psychology, and leadership failures, you could almost hear the panic alarms blaring at Mar-a-Lago. Trump usually shrugs off attacks from Democrats as fake news. But how do you discredit a respected Republican lawyer who's just laying out cold, hard facts about your bankruptcies and failed businesses? What made Conway's takedown so brutal wasn't cheap insults. It was the way he exposed Trump's lifelong pattern of failure with surgical precision. Trump has spent years crafting this image of being a winner, a successful businessman, a dealmaker. But Conway calmly peeled back the curtain on that illusion without ever raising his voice or showing emotion. And that hit Trump right where it hurts. Something about Conway's controlled, meticulous approach triggered a primal reaction in Trump, one even his most loyal staff couldn't contain. Because when a man who's built his entire identity around being a winner gets publicly dissected by a respected lawyer, his response says everything about his character. And of course, it didn't take long for Trump to fire back. But in classic Trump fashion, he completely ignored the facts and went straight for schoolyard bullying. His opening shots, calling Conway a total loser and a husband from hell on Twitter. And when reporters pressed him, he escalated, dismissing Conway as a whack job and bizarrely claiming he was just jealous of his own wife's success. The contrast couldn't have been starker. While Conway calmly presented a fact-based takedown, Trump lashed out with the emotional maturity of a toddler who just had his favorite toy taken away. It was like watching a chess master make a brilliant move, only for his opponent to flip the board over and scream, "I win!" And then, right on cue, Trump's campaign manager Brad Parscale jumped into the mud pit, claiming Conway was just bitter about not getting a job in Trump's Justice Department. But that talking point collapsed faster than a Trump casino, because soon enough Conway's own rejection letter to Trump surfaced, proving he had zero interest in working for him in the first place.
Have 600 plus federal judges trying to run the federal government through litigation when the president is just refusing to do his job, and not only refusing to do his job, basically saying F you to the duties that I have. Where you have a majority of both houses of Congress who absolutely have refused in the past, in prior Congresses, to hold this executive in his prior administration to account. They're refusing to. The correct solution, and this is what made JV laugh, and you guys put it up on the internet, what JV laughing at me, the correct solution that the framers intended was impeachment and removal when a president refuses to do his job.
Turns out Conway had actually withdrawn his name from consideration, proof that made Trump's team look even more desperate in their scramble to discredit him. And then there's Trump's weird obsession with calling him Mr. Kellyanne Conway. It's the kind of sexist jab that only makes sense if you believe a man should naturally feel threatened by his wife's success. In Trump's black and white world, someone always has to be the loser in a relationship, and in his mind, it couldn't be the man. The irony? This insult was coming from the same guy who completely unraveled when a woman moderator dared to push back during a debate. But self-awareness has never been Trump's strong suit. The pattern was painfully predictable. The calmer and more composed Conway remained, the more unhinged Trump's attacks became. This is textbook Trump. When he's cornered with facts he can't refute, he doesn't fight back with logic. He just attacks the messenger, makes up lies, and hopes his followers won't notice he's dodging the actual argument. As Trump's team scrambled to defend him, Conway responded with 3 simple words: "You are nuts." That was it. No ranting, no name-calling. Just a calm, cutting remark that further highlighted the massive maturity gap between these two men. While Trump fumed about nasty husbands and jealousy, Conway let Trump's meltdown prove his point about the former president's unstable mindset. But this wasn't just a battle of personalities. It was a deep look into Trump's biggest insecurities. His panic wasn't about politics. After all, Conway is a lifelong Republican. The real threat? Conway's ability to methodically dismantle Trump's carefully crafted image using cold, hard facts. Getting called names by Democrats? Trump lives for that. But being exposed by a respected conservative lawyer, someone from his own side, laying out his lifelong failures piece by piece, that cuts deep. And it put Trump's team in a nearly impossible position. How do you defend a man who answers legitimate criticism with insults like "husband from hell"? Every time Trump lashed out, he reinforced a Conway's argument, proving himself to be impulsive, thin-skinned, and utterly incapable of handling real scrutiny. His defenders were left trying to put a professional spin on behavior that would get a middle schooler sent to the principal's office. But Trump's obsessive need to respond to every single comment revealed something else, just how deeply insecure he really is. A confident leader would have brushed it off or responded with actual substance. Instead, Trump had a full-scale meltdown, showing everyone just how much Conway's words stung. And behind that meltdown, the most awkward dinner table in Washington, a husband and wife, politically sleeping with the enemy. While Trump ranted about George Conway all over Twitter, most people missed the real story, the one playing out inside the Conway household. What happens when your spouse becomes your boss's most relentless critic? That answer gives us a window into one seriously bizarre marriage and the devastating insider knowledge that made Trump lose his mind. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. How did George and Kellyanne even function as a couple? In a fascinating revelation, George admitted that he used Twitter as a way to let off steam about Trump. "It's so I don't end up screaming at her about it," he confessed, giving us a rare glimpse into their bizarre home life. Imagine that dinner conversation. "Honey, pass the potatoes. Oh, and by the way, your boss is a compulsive liar destroying democracy." Awkward. But what makes this situation extra juicy isn't just the marital drama. It's that George had a front row seat to Trump world through his wife. Unlike random never-Trumpers, he wasn't some outsider throwing rocks at the castle. He was practically breathing the same air as Trump's inner circle. So when he started dismantling Trump, it wasn't just criticism, it was a betrayal from inside the house. When the husband of one of your most trusted advisors starts comparing you to dictators, it hits different. It's like finding out your best friend's spouse secretly thinks you're a fraud. That stings. And George didn't hold back. In a bombshell Washington Post interview, he didn't just complain about Trump's public persona. He flat out said that watching Trump's endless lying and incompetence was maddening. That wasn't just an opinion. It suggested he had seen, heard, and witnessed things up close, things that pushed him to a breaking point. This wasn't just a guy annoyed by Trump's tweets. He was alarmed by what was happening behind the scenes. Then came the nuclear truth bomb. Conway warned that Trump would be running in the next election not to lead the country, but to avoid jail. He's going to go to jail if he doesn't win the presidency. That's not some throwaway political insult. That's the kind of statement that screams, "I know things you don't." And let's not forget, this wasn't coming from a Democrat or a liberal pundit. This was a Republican lawyer with direct connections to Trump's top advisor. Kellyanne, of course, tried to downplay the situation, insisting Trump had left George alone for months out of respect for me. Nice try. But George wasn't buying it. While Kellyanne defended Trump, George continued to systematically dissect Trump's psychological weaknesses, like someone who had studied the subject up close. It was like watching a marriage counseling session unfold in real time, except with national security implications. But perhaps the most devastating moment came when Conway compared Trump to Hitler in the bunker during the final days of World War II, moving around imaginary military divisions that didn't even exist. That wasn't just a random history reference. That was a chilling assessment of Trump's detachment from reality. Think about it. When the spouse of your closest advisor is publicly suggesting you've lost touch with reality to Hitler levels, that's not just embarrassing. That's terrifying. And here's the real kicker. What would make someone risk their marriage just to sound the alarm about a president? George Conway wasn't just taking pot shots for fun. He knew something. His willingness to create massive tension in his own home told us one thing. What he knew about Trump was bad enough to make him willing to blow up his own marriage over it. That's the real story here. Not just what Conway said, but what his willingness to say it tells us about how bad things actually were. What we've witnessed isn't just another political spat. This is Trump's worst nightmare coming to life. See, Trump can handle attacks from liberals all day long. He just calls them angry Democrats, and his followers eat it up. But Conway, that's his kryptonite, a lifelong Republican with insider dirt. That's the political equivalent of getting pantsed at your own birthday party. Poor Trump thought his image was bulletproof, but Conway proved it's more like wet toilet paper. And the funniest part? It's not even Trump's childish name-calling. It's how predictable he is. Every insult he throws at Conway just confirms what Conway said about him. It's like watching someone scream, "I'm not angry," while turning redder than a MAGA hat. Trump never understood that Conway's methodical takedown wasn't just criticism, it was surgery. And his tantrum. Exactly what Conway predicted. Grumpy Trumpy just can't handle being exposed by someone who knows where all his tacky, gold-plated skeletons are buried.